If I feel like if Muslims in this country could pick up one social cause, like we can't fix everything and we can't work on all things all the time, but if we can just pick one social cause, even it's the biggest of them all, I think, in this country, which is like address the unhoused population. A lot of we don't have what is it called? They've closed, for the most part, um, asylums, like insane asylums, because of the maltreatment, like terrible treatment of people in them in this country before, right? And guys, horror movies come from from how people were treated in these places. But what's happened is, in the absence of social services and mental health services that are humane, is that you have open air insane asylums, which is the homeless populations in a lot of these areas. They're not well mentally. That you can't tell them to go get a job because they don't understand what you're saying. When we were doing the Majlis food distribution, like serving our nobles distribution, there was a time when the area behind the stadium in Anaheim, it was just a tent city where the homeless population or unhoused population in the area set up tents, like for a few miles. And we'd go there and we'd distribute food together. And I specifically remember one of the most disturbing situations when we were trying to distribute food is I was trying to give it to a man who was walking on the street, and he came to get the food, and I was giving it to him, but somehow, as I'm trying to give him the food, he understood that he's not supposed to take the food. And I'm like, no, this is for you. And he just couldn't understand English. Like he like no matter what I was saying, he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," and he starts backing away, and I'm like, "No, no, no, this is yours." And he was walking away from food that he needed because he didn't understand what I was saying to him, you know. So I had to like run up to him to give him food, and I could tell he didn't know like basic, like he spoke English, but he didn't understand the meaning that was coming out of people's. What was well, it was and it was a sad situation because clearly this is not someone who could advocate for themselves. Like they're coming to get food, then they get confused at the moment of taking the food, then they think they're doing something wrong because they're taking food. Then you're like, no, no, this is actually for you. It's meant for you. Please take this. They start walking away before getting the food. So it was like, this is someone who needs a lot more than just this bag of food. Um, and so, this is one of the causes that I'm like on all. I know we're very like socially active on different causes and social justice, but I really love something Imam Zaid encourages, which is build your social justice campaigns on essentially on the integrity of social mercy. Like we need social mercy, and then you build your social justice on your social mercy. But it's, if you think about it, it's easy to go to a protest. It's a lot easier to go to a protest and scream than it is to go out week after week and cook for people who don't have something and try to figure out how to solve some of the issues in their lives and help them out. But like this definition of, subhanAllah, the Arabic, miskin and the matraba, that dust is literally clinging to their bodies, and that's the unhoused population. They don't have a place to lay down other than the dirt itself. So may Allah help us as a community address these kinds of social ills in this country. And there's so much to say about this. Like it's a really important cause. Just something to note of encouragement and beauty is that the Serving Our Nobles project transitioned a little bit. Like in the beginning, we were passing out KFC when we first started out, like halal KFC. They were really happy about that. They loved halal KFC. They would when we would go down to the stadium, someone would start calling out to all the tents. They'd be like, "The KFC is here!" And they start running through the tents, and then and we would go once a month. And I remember the second time that we came, one of the guys came and he was like, "It's been a minute, like we missed your food, you know." So, but then one of the things that happened that was a blessing for us was, I don't know, some of you guys know Brother Ahsan, those original core people from the Majlis, yeah, Ahsan and Vanessa, yeah. So they used to go to USC, where I did chaplaincy, and when I was a chaplain at USC, Ahsan was the president of an organization that existed right beside the MSA, which was called Ansar Service Partnership. What the main project of Ansar Service Partnership was to provide food for the unhoused population outside USC, like Skid Row. So they would do monthly food distributions, and sometimes every other week food distributions and supplies distributions on Skid Row. So he had, alhamdulillah, through the experience of that role, learned how to cook bulk and learned how to provide for bulk amount, like a lot of people at once. So at some point, alhamdulillah, when he got involved with the Serving Our Nobles program, we transitioned for a period of time, and our goal is to go back to this, but we don't have Ahsan. May Allah bring us someone like Ahsan. To hand cook the food. So we went from KFC to hand cooked meals, and which they were really happy about, and down to like Thanksgiving dinner at Thanksgiving time, like those types of food items. And the idea was to make the kind of delicious food that you yourself would want to eat, or you yourself would invite your guests to eat. So it was like quality, good food. Like the menu was always amazing. And so a handful of volunteers would get together at someone's home and cook. And there was a kitchen outside, a kitchen inside, but it was like hand cooked bulk food. And eventually they shut down that area. They actually cleared everybody that was living outside the stadium, I think for construction reasons. So I don't know what happened to them. They were moved out of there. We had to move to a soup kitchen to be able to do the food distribution. At the soup kitchen, initially they said all the churches have taken up all the days, so you can't get a day, like you can get a middle of the week kind of day. Then they saw the kind of food that we were serving, and they told our team, you can pick any day of the week you want, because they knew that like this is a treat for whoever comes. Like it was that alhamdulillah, that enjoyed. And it was actually one of the food distributions that was there happened on the same night that we were having our very first banquet for the Majlis. And when my husband was leaving, one of the guys from that food distribution comes to my husband, and he says, do you guys have a church? And my husband's like, no, we don't have a building. Like we're a religious organization, we don't have a building. And so he prays. He's like, well, I prayed that God gives you your building, And that night, alhamdulillah, we were doing if we didn't meet a certain amount, we were not going to be able to sign the contract for the lease for our first space. So alhamdulillah, that night we did the fundraising, and we reached it by literally by the dollar of what was needed to sign the contract. And alhamdulillah, we were able to open the first space that we had in Orange. But there is something to be said about the prayer of those who are in such dire situations, right? The famous hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, أبغوني في الضعفاء فإنما تنصرون وترزقون بدعفائكم. Like, seek me amongst the poor, the downtrodden, the marginalized, because you are given victory and you are given sustenance because of the downtrodden among you. So on one hand, it is the steep path. It is the steep path to be doing this kind of work. It doesn't come naturally unless you go out and seek it. Like, you have to find the cause, and then you have to show up for the cause, then you have to donate for the cause, or you have to volunteer for the cause. So there's an exertion that's there. On the other hand, the person who is doing this receives from Allah so much more than what they gave, like exponentially more than what they gave, to the extent where the Prophet says, seek me amongst them. Like, if you want to be close to me, these are the people you need to be close to, because that will make you close to me, right? So this is the steep path, but it's also the prophetic path. It's also the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had tremendous love for the poor. It was in his prayers, Allahumma inni as'aluka hubb al-masakin. I ask you for the love of the poor, right? So we don't look upon the poor in the same way. Like, we see hardship in their lives, but we don't say they're less than. And that's why the program is actually called Serving Our Nobles. We say the opposite. They're more than. You're going through this kind of hardship, and there's a secret hidden in you and your hardship, and to serve you is an honor. And you are actually nobility, and we will treat you as nobility. So may Allah help us to see that, so that we realize we're not actually doing anyone a favor. We're not doing them a favor. They're doing us a favor, when we give to them.